I don't even know why I'm recording this. Honestly, if you're still here, if you're still listening, it might already be too late for you too. That's not me trying to be dramatic. That's not some creepy intro to reel you in. I mean it. Because this isn't just a story. You know how we all treat Netflix like background noise? You scroll through it late at night, half asleep, half bored, looking for something to distract you from reality. That was me last week, just another insomniac night, wrapped in the glow of my laptop screen. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. At least, that's what I thought. But I found something. Something I shouldn't have. A channel that isn't supposed to exist. You won't find it in the menus, you won't see it in their glossy ads. Netflix doesn't want you to know about it. Hell, I don't think anyone is supposed to know about it. I wish I could say it was a glitch, some coding error. I tried to convince myself of that at first. But the more I watched, the less it felt like watching. And the more it felt like being watched. You think I sound paranoid? Then explain this. The first video that played wasn't a movie. It wasn't even a show. It was me. My room. My exact room, dimly lit by the lamp on my desk. Same pile of laundry in the corner. Same half-empty coffee mug. I was sitting there, scrolling on my laptop. Except I wasn't filming myself. I hadn't recorded anything. And yet there I was, streaming on a channel that didn't exist. And here's the part that matters to you. Once you know this channel exists, once you've even heard about it, you're marked. The algorithm drags its hooks into you. It finds you. If you think I'm kidding, if you think this is just entertainment, fine. Keep listening. But don't say I didn't warn you. Because when I clicked away, thinking I could shut it off, the feed didn't stop. It followed. My TV, my phone. Even when I closed my laptop, the reflection in the black screen wasn't mine anymore. It blinked when I didn't. So if you're still here, if your curiosity is stronger than your fear, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you how I found the hidden channel on Netflix. And why I think it's watching us both right now. But once I start, there's no going back. Most nights of my life blur together. Insomnia does that. It stretches time into this dull, elastic haze where every hour feels the same. 3 in the morning looks identical to 11 at night. And I'm usually planted in the exact same spot, hunched on my bed. Laptop open, Netflix asking if I'm still watching. Yeah, Netflix, I'm still watching. Don't rub it in. I don't sleep much. Haven't for years. Some people count sheep, some drink tea, some try meditation. Me? I just let the insomnia win and burn through show after show. Honestly, I think I've rewatched The Office more times than I've actually gone outside in the past year. And I tell myself the same excuse every night. Just one more episode, and maybe I'll get tired. But I never did. There's something oddly comforting about that red Netflix logo fading in. It's predictable, safe. A background hum of voices that trick me into believing I'm not completely alone at 4 in the morning. My room would be dark except for the glow of the screen and the faint buzz of my desk lamp, which was forever threatening to flicker out. The air would be heavy, quiet. So quiet that even the laugh track from some sitcom felt like company. Of course, the irony of it all is that I thought streaming was my safe space, my shield against the silence. I didn't know that same comfort would turn into the thing that ruined me. See, if you're an insomniac, you know how you start to scrape the bottom of the Netflix barrel. You've seen the popular stuff. You've seen the hidden gems. You've even tried the weird foreign dramas with questionable subtitles just to feel like you're expanding your horizons. After a while, Netflix starts recommending things that don't even look real, like documentaries about salt or bizarre stand-up specials that no one else seems to have heard of. That night was one of those nights. I had scrolled past everything familiar, every title that made sense, until I was in this twilight zone of categories that felt like they weren't meant for human eyes. Hidden thrillers you might like. Obscure experimental films. Stuff that looked like it had maybe 5 views total. All from some poor intern testing the system. And maybe that's why I didn't think much of it at first. Just insomnia, brain fog, and Netflix scraping the bottom of the barrel for me again. But there it was, the thing that shouldn't have been there. The one option that didn't have a thumbnail, no description, no runtime. Just a black square with a title that flickered like it wasn't supposed to load, and I hovered over it, staring at the emptiness on my screen, joking out loud to myself. Because yes, I talk to myself when it's 3 in the morning. Wow, Netflix, you've officially run out of content. What's next? Surveillance footage of me. Funny, right? Except that's almost exactly what it turned out to be. I didn't know then, of course. I was just another tired night owl, procrastinating on life, and killing time with my favorite streaming service. But that was the night Netflix showed me something I shouldn't have seen. And once I clicked it, there was no undoing it that you've never seen this section of Netflix. I promise you that. At first, I thought it was just a glitch. Netflix is full of bugs, wrong subtitles, random autoplay trailers, recommendations that make you question if the algorithm has a grudge against you. But this wasn't like that. This was deliberate. That I scrolled past the usual carousel of tired suggestions when a new row appeared at the very bottom. It didn't have a flashy banner or some quirky tagline like, "Because you watched." No, it was just plain text in a sterile white font. Unlisted channel _Ultimo 93. That's not normal. Netflix doesn't do cryptic. It wants to be shiny, friendly, bingeable. This felt like a computer error slipped past quality control. There were no thumbnails. Just black squares, like placeholders waiting to load. Each title was gibberish, strings of letters and numbers that looked more like file names than shows. vid_00293_a seek 77x private_stream menu ll. They stretched across the row like corrupted data, static in menu form. Why first instinct? I laughed. I thought maybe I'd stumbled onto some backend test library, some secret playground where developers tossed unfinished content. And because I was half asleep and fully reckless, I clicked. The screen went black. Not the usual smooth fade to logo. This was abrupt, jarring. Then, after a few seconds, the video started. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't a show. It was CCTV footage, grainy, gray-tinted, the kind of thing you'd expect from a corner store security camera. The angle looked down a narrow hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. For the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Just static hum and the faint flicker of the lights. I sat forward, frowning. This had to be some kind of ARG, right? A hidden Easter egg Netflix cooked up to go viral. But then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The hallway looked familiar. Not just familiar, identical. The same peeling wallpaper. The same crooked exit sign above the door. I knew that hallway because it was the one outside my own apartment. I actually paused the video, just to be sure my tired brain wasn't playing tricks. But no, there it was, down to the crack in the linoleum I'd tripped over 100 times. I should have stopped then. Closed the laptop. Gone to bed, or at least pretended to. Instead, I hit play again. The footage jumped, like missing frames in old film. Suddenly, there was movement, a shadow at the far end of the hallway. It wasn't clear, just a blur of dark, out of focus, but shaped enough like a person to make me lean closer. And then the chat box appeared. Netflix has never done this, at least not for me. A small window popped up in the corner of the screen. Having issues? Chat with support. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Fine, let's play. I typed. Hey, what is this? Some kind of test content. The reply was instant. Too instant. This channel is not intended for you. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. It had to be a bot. A weird, badly programmed bot. I typed again. Looks like my building's hallway. How? Again, the reply came with mechanical speed. Do not proceed. My skin prickled. Netflix chat is slow, human, clumsy. This was something else. Automated, but aware that I should have closed it right there. But my insomnia-addled brain had locked onto the one thing it always craved. Distraction. And now curiosity. Dangerous curiosity. I minimized the chat, ignoring its blinking cursor, and kept watching. The shadow in the video had moved closer, halfway down the hallway. Still blurry, still indistinct, but with a strange jerky motion like its limbs didn't bend the way they should. And then, I swear to you, the footage jumped again. And suddenly the shadow was directly beneath the camera, staring up at it. Except there was no face. Just static where the features should have been. I slammed the spacebar, pausing the video. My reflection stared back at me from the dark laptop screen. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it was nothing. An experimental show, some hidden content I wasn't supposed to see. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't a show. This wasn't fiction, because I had just watched something I couldn't explain. A recording of the hallway outside my own apartment, and the shadow in the video wasn't gone. At first, I thought it was a prank. The next file on the hidden channel looked harmless enough. Just another black square with no description. Against every instinct screaming at me, I clicked it. The screen flickered, and then, nothing. A room. A completely ordinary living room. The footage was still grainy, like CCTV, though clearer than the hallway video. It was almost boring at first. A couch pushed against a wall, a coffee table cluttered with cups, a floor lamp leaning slightly to one side. It looked like the kind of rental you'd see on Craigslist. The kind of place that belonged to someone who hadn't quite figured out how to live like an adult yet. For the first minute, nothing happened. Just the faint hum of static and the occasional click, like the audio was trying to catch up. I leaned back in bed, forcing a laugh, trying to convince myself this was some weird art project. Netflix originals were getting desperate, maybe, but the longer I watched, the less funny it became. The room felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. My brain was already cataloging things it recognized. The same chipped mug I left on my own table, the same sag in the couch cushion where I always Saturday still. I resisted the thought. It couldn't be. It was just a coincidence. Everyone had a cheap lamp, right? Everyone had a thrift store coffee table with scratches across the surface. But then I noticed it. The detail that froze me. In the corner of the screen, leaning at a slight angle, was a crooked lamp. Its shade was tilted just enough to catch the light in a way that always annoyed me. I'd meant to fix it 100 times, but never had .my lamp. I sat up straight. The air in my room suddenly too thick, too heavy. My skin prickled with a cold sweat as I stared at the screen. This wasn't a living room. It was my living room. The realization came in waves, each detail confirming the nightmare. The old blanket draped over the couch, the scuff marks on the wall where I dragged furniture around, the stack of unopened mail shoved into the corner. It was all there. Every piece of clutter, every imperfection I'd stopped noticing until it was reflected back at me. I whispered to myself, barely audible, "This can't be real." And then something shifted on screen. The camera angle hadn't moved, but the focus had. The frame zoomed, slowly, painfully, centering not on the room but on the doorway just behind the couch. For a few seconds, nothing. Just the darkness of the hall beyond. Then, movement. A blur, quick, like someone ducking out of sight. My breath caught. I couldn't tear my eyes away. My rational brain scrambled for excuses. Maybe it was old footage, maybe someone had broken in, maybe I was misremembering my own space. But those excuses crumbled when the figure stepped halfway into view. It wasn't clear. Not yet. Just a shape, human enough but wrong in the edges. Like the pixels didn't know how to hold it together. And then, for one horrible instant, the camera seemed to flicker. The static rippled across the screen, and in that ripple, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Me. Just for a second, but unmistakable. My face. My body slumped on the couch. My own reflection staring back, caught in grainy surveillance footage of a room I thought I was alone in. I scrambled for the pause button, but the video kept playing, as if my keyboard no longer mattered. And that's when the thought finally hit me. Not whispered, not doubted, but solid, undeniable. I was being watched. First, I clung to the rational explanations. That was my lifeline. Hackers, I told myself. Webcams. Security breaches. Netflix had been compromised, and someone was streaming people's private lives for the sick thrill of it. It was disgusting, but at least it was human. At least it made sense. But the more I watched, the less sense it made. The hidden channel didn't stay static. Every time I refreshed, new videos appeared. Black squares with new code-like names. Blank thumbnails waiting to be clicked. Curiosity ate at me, even as fear screamed at me to look away. The first update showed me sleeping. It was unmistakably my bedroom. The same crumpled sheets. The same faint glow of the street lamp leaking through the blinds. The angle wasn't from my laptop webcam or my phone. It was higher, like someone had mounted a camera in the corner of the room. And there I was, curled on my side, chest rising and falling in restless half-sleep. I told myself it was old footage, maybe pulled from somewhere. Though deep down I knew it wasn't. Because I remembered that exact nightshirt I'd put on just hours before. Another video appeared, me typing at my laptop. Same posture, same cluttered desk, even the twitch of irritation when my Wi-Fi lagged. The audio picked up the faint clacking of my keyboard. Then came another, me eating cold pizza straight from the box, hunched over in front of the TV, too lazy to use a plate. A moment so specific, so pathetically private, I wanted to scrub the video from existence. I stared at the screen, while rising in my throat. Okay, I whispered, my voice trembling. Okay, maybe this is spyware. Maybe someone's hacked everything. But even that explanation started to collapse under the weight of what came next. The videos weren't just showing me. They were showing my moments, my rhythms, my habits. Not highlights anyone else would care about, but the small, mundane truths of my life that only I should have known. And then, they shifted. Point one video appeared labeled VID_PRED03. My hand hovered over the trackpad, hesitant. I clicked. The footage showed me again at my desk, but this time, something was different. The clothes, the clock on the wall, the faint buzz of sunlight spilling through the blinds. I hadn't lived this moment yet. It was me tomorrow, typing at the exact same laptop, wearing a shirt I hadn't pulled from the drawer, another file loaded. This time, it was me opening the door to grab takeout from a delivery guy. Except I hadn't ordered food. Not yet. And then the next video, the one that hollowed me out, showed me sitting on my couch, laptop open, watching Netflix. Watching this. Watching the hidden channel. I froze, heart hammering against my ribs. My reflection in the grainy screen, my own posture, my own movements. I was watching myself watch myself. This isn't possible, I muttered, shaking my head. But the words felt weak, meaningless. Because deep down, I knew exactly what I was seeing. This wasn't surveillance. Surveillance shows you the past. This was something worse. The videos were starting to show things that hadn't happened yet. Every time I refreshed, a new video appeared. Each one closer to where I was sitting. I fell into a routine so precise it felt ritualistic. Kettle on, blinds half closed, the laptop balanced on my knees like a talisman. I would open the hidden row, check the newest file name, and brace myself. Each upload demanded attention. I paused, rewound, froze frames until my eyes burned. The channel felt alive, hungry for my focus. At first, I tried to treat it like a problem to solve. I cataloged file names, wrote down timestamps, and scraped every metadata string that stubbornly remained. I dug into cached files, opened developer tools, traced IP hints until the numbers blurred into shapes. On an old forum, I found whispers about beta feeds and internal test channels. Jokes at first, then frantic posts where commenters swore their footage showed their exact kitchens. People scoffed. Then they disappeared. The videos themselves changed in ways that felt deliberate. A cup on my coffee table would appear tilted a fraction more than I remembered. A shadow would cross the frame and line up perfectly with a stain on my ceiling I use as a reference. Once a reflection showed a silhouette behind me that didn't exist in my apartment. Those were the moments my rational explanations started to fray. Sleep vanished. Days collapsed into research sessions. Friends texted and I invented excuses. Too much work, bad Wi-Fi. Because how do you tell someone their neighbor's streaming service is hosting covert footage of your life? Reheated coffee became my companion, and the glow of the screen my new dawn. Sometimes the uploads felt like live rehearsals. I would make dinner and come back to find an extra clip. Me opening the fridge, me humming, captured in a way that implied the camera never blinked. File timestamps refused to line up with my clock. They seemed to exist on a schedule that anticipated me. It was as if someone had started rendering my life a frame at a time. I noticed patterns in the file names, the same Greek delta, the same underscore, and found forum threads where people posted screenshots of identical markers before vanishing or pleading for help. One person claimed he received a clip of himself sitting in his car before he'd left the office. The advice was always the same. Don't engage, document everything, contact authorities. But the copies corrupted when moved to other devices. They dissolved into static if you try to transfer them. It was like the footage refused to be owned. Rumors circulated about Netflix builds used internally to test features, and about telemetry run so deep it recorded not just clicks but gaze. It sounded like conspiracy fodder until I scrubbed a frame and saw a tiny overlay, a cursor creeping along the UI. Someone, somewhere, had recorded their navigation through the menu and left the trace behind that I started leaving notes in tiny corners of the web. The smallest comment sections where people might quietly respond. If anyone remembers rumors of Netflix testing hidden feeds, drop it in the comments. I wrote, not knowing if anyone would. If anyone out there remembers those whispers, tell me now. The channel adapted to my attention. Once, a clip preempted me reaching for the laptop to close it. the sleeve of my sweatshirt visible in the frame before my hand moved. Another displayed me typing a sentence I had yet to write. It felt pre-rendered, as if reality was being composed ahead of me and I was forever late. Obsession calcified into dread. I'd tell myself I could stop any time and then watch a new file name appear. The intervals between uploads shortened as if the channel measured my focus and accelerated. The more I tuned in, the quicker the content multiplied. I wanted to stop, but the next file was always the one that might explain everything that I couldn't tell whether to hate the faceless uploader or myself for letting it in. The only thing I knew for certain was that I had to know whether I was alone. So I asked the internet, left breadcrumbs, copied frames, and waited. Each refresh an exercise in terror and hope. One night, I found a faint sequence of numbers in the corner of a frame. I wrote them on a sticky note, hands shaking. They felt like coordinates or a date or a map. For the first time in days, I had something concrete to chase, a lead worth risking. I pinned that note above my desk and refused to sleep that I don't remember the exact night it started. Maybe because by then, time had collapsed into a blur of refreshes and shaky breaths. What I do remember is the sound, the TV powering on in the middle of the night, a low electric hum vibrating through the walls like a pulse that I sat up in bed, heart thudding, and saw the blue glow spill across the living room floor. My remote lay untouched on the nightstand. The Netflix app opened on its own, the hidden channel already queued. No menu, no choice. Just played out. I staggered into the living room, half convinced I'd left it running. But the instant I crossed the threshold, the video began, no buffering, no delay. As if it had been waiting for me. At first, it was the same static riddled footage. My apartment, my couch, the crooked lamp. But then a shadow, at the far end of the hall. Faint, blurred, but moving. I leaned closer. The figure was human-shaped, shoulders too broad, its head slightly bowed. I told myself it was a trick of light, some kind of compression artifact. But then the figure shifted. Slowly, deliberately. It turned its head toward the camera. My blood iced over because the camera angle was my living room. And the figure was standing exactly where my hallway began. "This isn't streaming anymore," I whispered. "It's happening live." The next nights followed the same pattern. 3 a.m., without fail, the TV clicked on. The channel autoplayed. The figure always returned. Closer, at first in the background, then stepping into frame. At first faceless, then faint features bleeding into clarity. One night, I saw it standing behind my couch, head tilted in that unnervingly patient way. My couch, the one I was sitting on at that exact moment that I couldn't breathe. My eyes darted from screen to empty air behind me, back and forth so fast my vision blurred. Empty, then occupied, then empty again. The footage in the room no longer matched, yet I knew one was bleeding into the other. I tried speaking to it. My voice cracked as I muttered, "What do you want?" No answer, just the faint flicker of static, as if the audio track itself was trying to form words. White noise shaped into whispers I almost recognized. I pressed mute. The whispers continued. I yanked the power cord from the TV. The screen went black, yet the glow lingered for a split second too long. Like an afterimage burned into the room. That night, I dreamt, or thought I dreamt, of sitting on my couch while the figure stood directly behind me, breathing in sync with mine. I woke to find the indentation on the cushion beside me, still warm. Reality unraveled in fragments. My laptop would open the hidden channel on its own, even after I uninstalled Netflix. My phone screen flickered with a faint red recording light I couldn't shut off. Even my microwave glitched, displaying a sequence of numbers that matched the file names from the channel, and always. The figure, closer, older, as if feeding on my attention. One night, I made the mistake of pausing the video at the exact frame where its face should have been. The image blurred, then resolved into something halfway between a reflection and a mask. It wasn't a stranger's face. It wasn't mine either. It was something in between, like the footage was stitching me into it. "Stop watching." The words echoed, not from the TV, not from the laptop, but inside the room itself. The sound carried weight, thick and wet, like a distorted recording played through broken speakers. I spun around. Nothing there, but the air felt charged, heavy, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then I heard it. The sound from the video, the warped static, the whisper stitched into the hiss, seeping from behind me, not from the speakers. but from the darkened hallway of my own apartment. And this time, it wasn't muffled. It was breathing my name. The breaking point didn't end with silence. It ended with a realization so sickening, I almost wished the figure had simply stepped out of the screen and ended me right there. Because at least that would have been an answer. Instead, I began to understand what I was actually looking at. The videos weren't recordings in the way I thought. They weren't files with a beginning and an end. They were living, mutable, an archive that didn't just capture, but consumed. The proof came when I went back, desperate for some explanation, some glitch in the feed that could save me. I scrolled, further than I had before, and found rows I hadn't noticed. Not my living room, not my life, but other lives, different apartments, different faces. A man brushing his teeth, a woman crying at her desk, a kid in a basement, headphones on, gaming until dawn. None of them actors, none of them fakes. These were real people, caught in moments too small and private to ever be staged. And the deeper I went, the more I noticed something horrifying. The rows had order. The thumbnails, though blurred, showed figures like mine, shadowy at first, then closer, then clearer. The progression was always the same. Distance collapsing, normalcy shredded, until the final videos were nothing but static and screams that it was a library of endings that I froze on one thumbnail that almost made me vomit. A man slumped against a wall, eyes wide, mouth open in terror. His wallpaper, his couch, I recognized them from grainy screenshots people used to post years ago. Urban legends about cursed Netflix test feeds. Back then, everyone laughed it off. Just creepypasta, right? Except here it was, preserved. And as I stared, I understood. I wasn't watching his story. I was watching the cycle. The footage outlived the people. Once they were gone, their lives were filed away into the channel like trophies. That's when it hit me. The reason the videos of me kept changing wasn't because someone was editing them. It was because I wasn't just a viewer anymore. I was being absorbed. My nights, my routines, my every twitch and breath, added frame by frame to the archive. The more I watched, the less I was watching. I was being written into it. That whisper I'd heard before, the one telling me to stop watching, wasn't a warning to keep me safe. It was the final test, the last chance to resist. Because once you kept watching after the whisper, the channel knew it had you. I don't know how long I sat there, shaking, scrolling through other people's lives. Some of the oldest entries looked decades old, grainy VHS quality feeds, pixelated faces frozen in fear. The cycle had been going long before Netflix ever existed. The app was just the mask it wore now, the way it slipped unnoticed into our routines. And that's when the dread took a new shape. Because if the channel needed a new subject every time, if the archive demanded another life, then it wasn't just watching me. It was waiting for me to hand it off. That's the part one can't shake. Because as I'm speaking this, recording it, telling you, I'm not sure if I'm warning you or delivering you. Maybe both. Maybe that's how the cycle survives. Through confession, through curiosity, through one person dragging another into the archive. And if you've stayed this long, if you've heard me to the end, then maybe it's already too late for you. Because the channel doesn't want passive viewers. It wants participants. And I think you're next that I stopped sleeping. Not because I didn't want to, but because sleep became another broadcast. The moment I closed my eyes, I knew somewhere, on some hidden row only a few could see, my dreams were being projected. It wasn't paranoia. I tested it. I left my phone off, unplugged, shoved into a drawer. Still, when I opened Netflix, the next video had already updated. Me tossing in bed, covers tangled, eyes fluttering in REM.it didn't matter if my Wi-Fi was cut. If I pulled the Ethernet cable, if I smashed the router with a hammer. The feed didn't need an internet connection anymore. It was beyond that I tried throwing out my devices altogether. Phone, laptop, smart TV. Dumped them in a parking lot dumpster 2 towns over. I came home to silence, thinking maybe, finally, I was free. But that night, the old CRT television in my basement, one that hadn't even been plugged in for years, flickered to life on its own. No menu, no remote, no cable box. Just the hidden channel, waiting. And there I was, framed in static, staring back at myself. That's when I realized I wasn't escaping. I was already inside. The footage wasn't following me. I was the footage. The more I tried to resist, the more desperate the channel became to show me my place in its library. Like a child yanking a toy back into its box, I stopped telling people in my life. Friends thought I'd lost it. Family stopped answering my late-night calls. It's just a glitch, they said, or worse. Maybe you should talk to someone. They didn't understand. By the time you start explaining, the channel has already chosen you. Words only pull others closer. So I started leaving notes instead. In forums, in comment sections, in places I knew the curious and sleepless wander at 3 a.m. I never posted the full truth, just fragments. Cryptic warnings, breadcrumbs that maybe someone sharp enough could follow without getting sucked in. But then again, maybe I was only doing the channel's work, feeding its pipeline. Because look at us now, you're hearing this story, aren't you? And that's the part that breaks me, that I don't know if I'm still outside, narrating from the safety of my own room, or if I'm already sealed inside one of those thumbnails. My voice, just another artifact in the feed. Some nights I think I can hear myself talking from the TV a second before I say the words out loud. Like the delay of a live stream. Like I'm syncing with my own recording. The scariest part isn't the footage. It's the inevitability, because I've seen how the rows end. Every archive collapses into the same final video. A static blur swallowing the subject whole. Screams cut off. Faces frozen in terror. Then silence. Then the next row begins. That's what terrifies me the most. Not death, not madness, but replacement. The knowledge that the channel doesn't stop when it finishes with you. It just passes on, embedding itself in someone else's late-night scrolling. Someone else's curiosity, someone else's comfort routine turned nightmare. And the cycle keeps going. Maybe you're thinking you'd never click it. You'd never let curiosity win. But I thought that too. And yet, here we are, sharing the same cursed screen. If this story feels familiar, if you've ever seen a blank thumbnail you couldn't explain, or a row that disappears the second you look away, don't shrug it off. Don't tell yourself it was just a glitch. That's exactly how it starts. The channel doesn't end.it, just moves to the next account. And maybe that account is already yours. Top of form if you made it this far. Congratulations, or maybe condolences. Because if what I've learned is true, simply knowing about the hidden channel might be enough to put you on its radar. That's how it spreads. Not through code, not through updates, but through attention. So here's the deal. If this video suddenly disappears, if the upload gets wiped from my channel without warning, remember me. Remember that I tried to warn you, and maybe help me out. If any of you have seen strange Netflix glitches, blank thumbnails, code-like titles, menus that vanish when you back out, drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one. Share your stories, your theories, your proof. Or, if you'd rather not risk it, just leave a "so I know you're still out there, still watching." Subscribe if you want more, though honestly, I can't promise I'll still be here to make the next upload. Someone will though. The channel always finds a way. I'll be watching the comments. Or maybe it won't be me, and if you start seeing your own face in those thumbnails, don't say I didn't warn you.